Here are 5 challenges that every Scrum Master will most likely face, and here are 5 things that you can do about it. Now, the very first challenge that tops the list is resistance to change. Every Scrum Master is going to be faced with teams that are going to resist changing. So it might be the fact that you're new to that team and that team is new to Agile and they don't want to have anything to do with Agile. And then it becomes your job to ensure that they get used to this new way of working. But more than half of the time, many Scrum teams actually resist change. They don't want to attend the Scrum events. They feel it's too many meetings. They feel we're disturbing their day, we're obstructing their ability to work. And they just have so many reasons why they think Scrum is not going to work. And so for you as a Scrum Master, one of the things that you can do when you face that kind of situation is to take your time to communicate with the team. Let them understand the reason why we're doing the things that we need them to do. Let them understand the importance of the Scrum events. What are the benefits of those Scrum events? What is the value in it for them? Communication is very key for people who are resisting change. Many times we resist change not because we don't actually want to change, but because we fear what's on the other side of us changing. And so we don't even want to come out of that comfort zone. We want to keep doing the things that we're already used to doing. And so for you as a Scrum Master facing that kind of situation, education is the key. You have to educate your team on the benefits of changing. You have to take your time with the team. Don't push them because they will further resist from changing, right? So take your time, educate them, over communicate with your team, let them understand why you're doing certain things, let them understand the importance of doing those things, and just be patient with your team. And you're going to find out that with time, they will start to adjust and kind of get used to it. And before you know it, it's going to become a part of their day-to-day life. So be ready for it that your team might resist to change. And if that happens, know that education and communication are the 2 key factors that will help you overcome this challenge. Now, the second challenge that you're most likely to face is maintaining team motivation. So many times it's difficult for you to keep your team excelling at that optimal level. Some weeks they're in the good mood, other weeks they're not so much in a good mood. But for you as a Scrum Master, you want to ensure that they're always in that good mood, because when they're in that good mood and in that good, environment, then it's easier for them to achieve their goals. It's much easier for them to collaborate and work together. And that is a challenge because you're dealing with people who have minds of their own, and you can't necessarily force them to be in good moods, right? So you have to come up with creative ways to keep your team highly motivated. Now, one of the things that you can do in this situation is to ensure that you're celebrating small wins. Find time to celebrate your team. Find time to thank them for their hard work. Find time to just, spend time with them where we are playing. All work and no play sometimes make the team bored, all right? So organize those team events where you guys can all collaborate online if you're working remotely, where you can have online games where you guys can just gather, just get to know more about yourself, and just leave our work in those meetings, right? And once you guys find that time to know yourselves even more, it gets easier working together. It gets easier helping one another. And it's so much easier, motivating that kind of team to push even further towards their sprint goal. So those are some of the things that you can do to keep your team motivation on the high. Make sure you're finding those opportunities to thank them, to see the good in them, and always finding ways to celebrate your team. Now, another challenge that many Scrum Masters face is communication. So many times, there is always lack of communications happening. Scrum Master is not aware of what's going on. One team member is not aware of what's going on. Stakeholders are not aware of what's going on. And everyone is not on the same page, and everyone is frustrated. And that is a challenge that happens over and over again. So if you're right now in that situation, you are not alone. Many of us have gone through that situation. Now, one of the things you can do to overcome that situation is to ensure that you're communicating at every point in time to everybody needed, right? So ensure that your team have the same information. Ensure that the stakeholders are updated on a regular basis. Ensure that you're carrying everyone along. Once you find out what information about a thing, share that with your team. If your product owner shares an information with you, find out whether the team is aware. When a team member shares an information, find out whether your colleagues are aware. ensure that everyone is in the loop, and ensure that we are updating our stakeholders on a regular basis. Because when we don't, the stakeholders get upset. They're wondering what they're spending their money on. They're wondering if we're on progress. And so all of those things start to trickle down. So it's very important that we're keeping every important person updated. And even as a team, we're keeping ourselves updated, because when we're all on the same page, it's easier for us to really stay committed on the goal and nobody feels left out. And that responsibility falls on you as the Scrum Master to ensure that communication is on point. Okay. Now, another common challenge that many Scrum Masters get to face is, dealing with external pressure. So many times you're going to find external factors that are affecting your team members. It might be the fact that even though we have a product owner who is giving work to the team, there are other stakeholders outside of the team who are also directly communicating with the team, which then causes confusion in that team. Sometimes it might be the fact that the stakeholders on top of our heads, they're wondering why we're behind. They want us to speed things up. And even though we don't have enough resources or we're trying our best, sometimes those pressure could just come from all over the place. And this is a challenge that is very common. As a Scrum Master, be aware that this challenge exists. And one of the things you can do about this is to ensure that you're redirecting people. So for example, if there is a stakeholder who is connecting directly with a team member, make sure you talk to the product owner to have conversations with that product owner so that all communications can go through your product owner. Your product owner can prioritize that work and bring it to the team. Now, sometimes the stakeholder might just be used to it, knowing fully well that, hey, I have access to these developers. I can always talk to them directly. Continue to talk to your product owner to talk to that stakeholder. Sometimes you might not want to talk to that stakeholder directly, and I get it. If you have enough confidence and courage to have that conversation with that stakeholder, by all means, go ahead. But if you feel like you don't want to do that, then you can use your product owner, talk to your product owner, let your product owner be aware of his or her responsibilities so that he or she can redirect that conversation through that stakeholder, and so that we can correct all of that confusion that is happening. Now, other times it might be the fact that the stakeholders are pounding heavily on us. They want us to really deliver some of those milestones, and we are not on track, or maybe we don't have enough resources or just enough time to be able to do that. In that situation, let the stakeholder know what the reality is. Let them understand, the velocity of your team. Let them know what is realistic, so that based on that information, they might decide to go in a different direction. For example, if it's the fact that we don't have enough resources and that's why we're working at this pace, it might really make them prioritize hiring more people. If it's the fact that your deadline is just unrealistic, let them understand that this deadline, the team is trying all of their best, but they can't meet this deadline. So maybe we should reprioritize the features so that we can meet your deadline if you have a hard date. Something can always be done, and communication is really key. So if the deadline cannot be changed, maybe we can recraft our features and have our MVP. What is the most important thing that we can deliver by this timeline? That might work. So make sure that you're having the conversation with your product owner. So your product owner is having that conversation with the stakeholders, and that way we can reduce the pressure on the team. Because when the teams are under pressure, they get to make more mistakes. They get to throw quality out of the door. And at the end of the day, you get to find a lot of issues with the product or the service that the team has built. So one of the ways you can deal with external pressure is to communicate and ensure that you're redirecting that communication to ensure that all the people that need to be aware are aware of the situation, and they know what the reality is at every point in time. Now, the final challenge that you're most likely to face as a Scrum Master is conflict. Conflict is inevitable. As long as two people work together, there is bound to be conflict. Now, the good thing is that most times we're dealing with adults, so many times we don't get to have, real conflicts. Sometimes we might have Cold War happening amongst those team members, but as a Scrum Master, be aware that this is a big challenge, and when it happens in your team, you've got to deal with it. You can't overlook conflict thinking that's going to go away. It's just going to affect work, and you don't want anything affecting work. So you want to deal with that conflict. And one of the things you want to do is address the conflict, right? There's some conflict that's not a big deal that you can address, and then, we can resolve it. Some of it might need, external people to talk to, depending on you know, how big that conflict is. But always know the conflict have got to be addressed. Otherwise, they are going to affect work. And when they affect work, we're not going to meet our sprint goals. We're not going to meet our milestones. And before you know it, we are way behind. So as a Scrum Master, there is nothing wrong with you facing challenges. It is important for you to know how to deal with those challenges. Those challenges actually make you more experienced. And with that experience, you're able to actually deal with more situations as they come your way. Thank you very much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you like and subscribe to this YouTube channel and drop a comment below. Thank you very much, and I cannot wait to catch you in my next video. Bye.